Exposed Vegan Media Podcast. I am your host, Jaja Porter, a wife, mom, triathlete, and vegan chef. On this channel, you'll experience my ongoing docuseries capturing my swim, bike, run, and nutrition journey featuring all the people I interact with along the way. We are back. Exposed Vegan Media on its 9th episode. And I am so excited to share my next guest. I wanted to have this interview before, but we had some technical difficulties. But you know what? I think this was the plan for us to come back and talk about this race. We are going to talk to you about IRONMAN North Carolina 70.3. Let me introduce you to my guest, Akeem. Hi.
Hello.
How are you? So good to see you.
I'm doing well today. Had to come dressed for the occasion.
Love the finisher gear. It is well deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I cannot wait to get into it and talk to you about it. But before we get started, tell me about your why. Why multisport? Why triathlon?
I joke and say that the why is I have a lot of terrible friends that influenced me to do this stuff. So that's the funny part. But the serious part is I finally found something that I feel like that I can accomplish and that I feel good at, and I can say, okay, that didn't go well, but you know what? You're 2 or 3 steps off of something else, and I feel great, doing it. And it's a sense of self accomplishment that I can accomplish something hard. So I think that's my why. It's a good feeling.
It sounds like you like to challenge yourself.
Apparently so. Before, like I never understood it, like in situations of where, like I want to find the closest parking spot, to the store, or I want to, find some simple ways out. I choose one of the most difficult things to do, but the reward and the feeling of saying that, wow, I did that. I did a race that's more than my complete work commute. It's like something amazing to say.
Yeah, I can relate to it. So I totally get it. As you're working through all of this, how do you train for these types of races for those who are wondering about it? Do you train with a group? Do you have a coach? Do you belong to a team?
This time I did train with Coach Ariel. I did had another coach before because I knew that this wasn't a sprint pool try, and I knew that like for me personally, it's not something that I just wanted to wing it or just kind of feel my way out of it, because this was like a really daunting thing, and there are a lot of different things, nuances that when you do like a 70.3 or anything else that you need to know. So I did train with Ariel this time. It gave me structure about, okay, you need to do this much swimming, or we need to accomplish this on the bike or this on the run. And every week it was tailored to, so I won't say my weakness, but my opportunities as a triathlete. And that way it kind of put me on there, and I train maybe 5 to 6 times a week, depending on what the schedule called for.
That's awesome. It sounds very structured. It allowed you to stay on track, and you were committed to it. Of course, if you're, doing 5 to 6 times a week. So it allowed you to reach your goal. So sounds like a great plan to me. Mm-hmm. And you started your eyes on IRONMAN North Carolina 70.3. Was this your first or second? Like, how many have you done leading up to this one?
I had done 2 70.3s. Both were at Eagleman. I'm kind of like a creature of habit sometimes. Like, I'll find something I like and I'll stick to it. I'm like, I like it. and I see, like there's like 8 million different 70.3s around the world, but I was just like, Eagle Man twice, that's it. And I had signed up for North Carolina last year, but I wasn't able to go. So this year I was like, let's make it happen. This will be number 3, and ended up being a good time.
I think that's a good choice. I'm a creature of habit as well. I think I've done North Carolina 3 times. I was going to say 4, but I think that would have been my 4th if I was able to make it. So it's one of my favorite races. And I think when you find a course that you like, sometimes you want to go back and test your limits or recon and think about what you did. Like I knew you were going to do well on that course, especially looking at what you did with Ecoman. So I was like, oh, he's going to kill it. I can totally see that he's going to do well on this course. So I'm glad that worked out well for you. But let's get into it. Let's start to talk to people about what North Carolina was like. So tell me you're getting to the race, because for me, I'm not that far. So were you able to drive to this one? Did you have to fly? Like what was your, preparation to arrive at the venue?
I was able to drive. I sort of, I think I was like, this was like sort of like the second sort of major thing that had been going on in my, in my life recently. So I didn't really pay attention to how long it was actually going to take to get to North Carolina, because I was like, dang, I'm still on 95. Good grief. But it was a pretty good straight shot. I knew that I left on early on Thursday so that I could get down there. I could have a day of getting used to a new place, because no matter where I travel, that first night I'm always like, I'm in a new place. I can't get any sleep. And I know that going into this, I already wasn't going to get any sleep because of the race nerves. So I said, let me at least try to, make it up on the front end. But I was able to drive down there. I think it took me like a little over 7 hours with traffic when coming from Maryland. So it was good to go, and got settled and I was ready to go.
I mean, I think one of the benefits when you're driving to the race, you don't have to worry about your bike because it's with you. You can take as much stuff that you can put in your car. So there's that benefit. You don't have to worry about the airlines losing your stuff. So there's all that sense of ease,
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I saw your story and I was like, "Oh, bike guard." that got me. I was like, all right, let's go."
Yeah, that is the worst. And I think that's why there's some races when I want to test things out, you want to drive to something. So when people are thinking about choosing what races to do, sometimes it's good to just test your stuff out before you fly with it. Because that can be a nightmare sometimes. But yeah, it sounds like you were good. All you had to do was think about, just get used to the new venue and think about your race plans. So what was that like to start to prepare once you got to the venue?
Once I got there, this was my first like triathlon that had multiple, well, not multiple, but different transitions were in different places. So that was freaking me out. Like that's how I knew that I was prepared for the race, because I kept worrying about like, why are the transitions are far apart? The bags. You can even ask Ariel. I kept asking him like, the bags, man, the bags. He's like, relax, like you got it. But making sure that I read the athlete guide, I went to the athlete briefing to just, even though I knew it was going to give me like even more nerves, because I'm thinking, oh my God, did I remember that? Like, and I know that I have everything, but sometimes hearing it again makes me like extra nervous that I forgot something. But so I went to those things. When I got back to the hotel, I had 3 different, sections for all my stuff. Make sure that I had all my stuff, like, good to go and ready to drop off, so that I didn't have to worry about that the next day. But it was just, I even made like a little like pamphlet. I know I probably went overkill on it, but I had like a little pamphlet of a binder that had all the papers, so that I could go through 2 and 3 times and make sure that I have everything. Because the worst thing is to get out there and you don't have something, and then it's not a good situation.
I mean, I think you did all the right things. For every single race, I have a binder. Or like one of those, what is it called, where you take that to a meeting, portfolio type.
Photo, yeah.
Yeah. So I have that for every race. I type things out in Word. I kind of go in, do my race plan, print it out, and then I always print out, I know it's not paper, but save the trees, but I print out the race guide. I do it for every single race. Even if I've done it before, like sometimes there's changes and I don't want to be surprised while I'm on the course. So I would always advise people to go to the race briefing.
Yeah.
You meet the race director sometimes and the
Yeah.
people that are responsible. You'll find out if there's changes. So yeah, I think you're building some great habits. And the thing about North Carolina is that will prepare you for the full. So now you know how to get ready for bags.
Yeah.
You're going to have bags at a full Ironman. So
Yeah.
you're already one step in there.
Yeah, I kept asking, like, the bag. Okay, so clear. How many bags am I supposed to have? I knew the question. Like, I'm sure I was wearing out Ariel's nerves when asking about the bags, because I was so concerned about the bags.
That's so funny. Funny story is last year, not the race you were at, the year before, I had come back from Kona and I was like, oh, let me just do North Carolina. I forgot I registered for it because I always do. And I'm there on race morning, around in circles, and I see everybody with stuff around their bikes. And I wasn't used to a 70.3. I was used to a full. And I'm used to the bags. And I'm like, why do people have things on the ground? And I'm just literally walking back and forth. And Ariel is out there volunteering. He's like, Ja, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. It's like, I'll get on the bus. I'm like, okay. I was like, I'm just like, why do they? He's like, go get on the bus.
I was just like, what is going on? I got the what?
What are you doing? I was like, I don't know.
Why do I do this again?
And I think I was what, 7 Ironmans in at the time. So you often are like, what? Confused about things, which is why it's good to have your papers, write things down, have a list of what you're supposed to be doing, because I did not have one at that particular race. I was just winging it, coming back from somewhere else. So it's always good to have a plan, or you're walking around in circles in the dark in transition. So
Yeah.
great for you.
Yeah. What also helped was, since it seemed more complicated, and this is before like I didn't realize my entire like Maryland triathlon friend circle was going to do North Carolina. I did the Nirvana add-on because I just was not sure if there was going to be anybody else going to be there, and it seemed like it was a good add-on to have, especially for this race for me, and it having so many different logistical pieces to it. And I said, like, if it's ever a situation like that, I know it's a little bit more on top of an already expensive registration fee. It left me with like a peace of mind, because like the dropping off of the bike, going to the different transition areas, and even on race day morning, I was able to catch their shuttle to do it all, because it seemed like, like when we pulled up on race day morning and there's like a line of cars, like all the way like back to Virginia trying to get into this like parking lot. I'm just like, whoo, glad I'm not there. I just got out and just got, went to transition.
Tell people what that is. What is Nirvana? Because I haven't done it yet. I always have a Sherpa. I'm always like race princess with somebody else always taking me around. But lately I've had to do things solo. Tell me a little bit about what you get with the Nirvana package, because I haven't done it.
Okay, so it is like they're like the Sherpa in a little bit of a sense, but they have like an add-on where they will set you up with a hotel that is close, one of the race sponsored hotels, so this one, it put me literally like maybe a little less than half a mile away from from the last transition and everything like that. So they put you up there, and they have the pick up and drop off feature. So if you need to take your bike to transition, they'll put it in the shuttle, take you over there. They can take you to the expo if they want to. They can take you back to the hotel after it. And all you literally have to do is like set up a time for it, and they take care of everything. You just have to be there. Like even like race day morning, like I said, they had, okay, we have these times. Make sure that you're ready. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about driving or anything like that. You just hop in and go. And those were the features that I took advantage of, and it saved me a ton of energy and mental, and mental energy, mental and physical energy when I got there. So this time it was worth the money.
So it's kind of like athlete race day VIP service, basically.
Yeah, you can say that. I was going back to my Zamunda roots for North Carolina.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to take advantage of that, especially if I wind up doing something solo. So thanks for sharing for our audience.
No problem.
Right. So let's get into the race morning, the swim. Tell me a little bit about that. What was that like?
Oh, so it was. I'm like, I got up. It's like four or something. Like in the morning when I woke up, and I look at my phone, and it says like 43 degrees outside, and I'm like, this is going to be disrespectful. So, like I get, I get there, we're waiting in the parking lot. I ran into the crew there. So, I said it was like fast chicks in me when I got there. But ended up running into like Adam and Mark and, everybody else who was doing it. But it was like I was in the little parking lot waiting for the swim. And I was in my tri-suit, wetsuit, sweatpants, a t-shirt, a hoodie, and everything like that. And I'm like, I'm really about to get into some water, and I am completely bundled up right now. There's officially something. Yeah, it was windy too, because right on the beach, you had the breeze off the water too. So I'm like, ooh, what? Why? Why did you do this again? Like nobody told you to do this. You're doing this by yourself. So, the good thing about it is like, so you do get to keep your stuff on until like the last possible minute, and then you can take it off and go. But I was probably so nervous about the different transitions and the fact that it was cold. I didn't realize that I still had my glasses on until Crystal was like, Akeem, what are you gonna do with your glasses? I was like, I knew I could see a little too well, because my initial plan was to leave them at the bike, and I said I can sort of squint my way to the bike. So, but luckily, I said Crystal was like a godsend, and it was like they do have a glasses table up there, so you can drop it off and do it. So, the swim, it was cool. You had a little bit of a walk before, you had to go from the parking lot across the street. Then you kind of jumped in and went. Everybody was apparently placing bets that I was going to do the swim in sub 30 minutes. And I don't like that sort of pressure, because I'm like, oh God, what if I don't make it? You know what I mean? But it was, I went, and I was able to do it actually in under 30 minutes. But I was looking at my watch sometimes, like, ooh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I just kept going and everything. Everybody was saying that, the current was there. I didn't feel the current, but apparently it worked, you know what I mean? Because it was a faster swim. It was a couple of times of where I said I made the mistake of trying to use I can't think of what you call it, the form goggles. They had that little sighting tool, because when I was looking down, like I couldn't really see it, and you don't want to be like staring down trying to read your goggles like when you're in the middle of open water, because you might go off course. And then when I tried to look up in the sky, of course, there's nothing but sun, and you couldn't really see it anyway. So I was like, you know what? We go to my sighting my sighting tool, and that's breaststroke. I use breaststroke to continue to go forward. It helps me sight, and continue to go on there. So I did that. It was interesting. Like I said, when you do Eagle Man, you're kind of swimming in a box. And this one, it felt like you were like doing like a Fast and the Furious drifting. You just straight, like that. And then you try to get out. It was a couple of times where I realized I need to invest in some more like anti-fog stuff for the goggles. It was a couple of times where I just literally couldn't see, but I just had to tread the water for a second, do the little like windshield wiper blades, put them on, and go. The swim was uneventful, except for there were spots of where the water went from like pretty decent to be in to it got like finger chilling cold. Like I don't know like what happened, but it was just sometimes where you're like, ooh, the temperature dropped to like a good 10 degrees in the water. So that gave me a little more motivation to get out. But the toughest part of the swim for me was trying to get out on the little dock and everything like that, because you can feel a little bit of the current pushing you, and you kind of have to be like trying to hold on to the ladder and pull yourself out. So I'm like, whoa, that was adventurous. So all the pictures of me getting out of the water look like, whoa, that was an ordeal, because I was like, just trying to get out.
Yeah.
So then I had to squint to try to find the glasses table. So that's what I was just like, okay, I got it. Put them on, and then it's probably like the longest transition from swim to bike that I've dealt with in life, because you literally had to run like almost like a quarter mile to get back to the transition spot. But I ended up making it there.
Yeah, you had a really good swim. I knew that was going to happen though. Because again, I've done the race a couple of times. And the good thing is you went to the race briefing. So they told you, right, about the turns. And so the thing is, when you don't do things like that, you get there and you're like lost. Which way do you go? It's not one of those races like Chattanooga where it's straight down. So you got a heads up that you're going to have to get out, make that right, make the left, make the right. It's on the right to get up. You have the stairs. So you have people that are going to share with you what the course is going to be like. And that's one of the benefits of going to it. And then having friends there to remind you of little things like, hey, what are you doing with your glasses?
Yeah, I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
That's all. I got all the major stuff. There's always something that I'm like,
there is always something. So it's great when you have, your peeps out there with you to kind of remind you of things. And even with you, messing with your goggles, you still had a good swim time. So no one would have known that you were off to the side trying to defog them. But that's happened to me in the pool. I don't like those goggles, open water.
Yeah, that's why I said like I definitely learned my lesson. And I don't I tried to like stay humble, and I kind of used to like leave some parts out of it. But I feel like people looking like with three eyes when I told them, like I didn't do freestyle the whole time. I did breaststroke too, like because breaststroke's my second best stroke, and I did have to stop, clean my goggles out, and like that way, and then I went. So it's just kind of like I'm starting to sort of like cater to my strengths, and that's one of the ones where it's like, okay, I don't necessarily believe that I'm going to do this sub 30 swim, but everybody else says so. So I'm going to lean on that a little bit to say, okay, I'm about here. I can do this and then continue to go.
And that's a big difference from your previous race, right? Because I know we talked at Eagleman and we weren't able to share that conversation, but weren't you like at the back of the line for that one because your confidence wasn't there?
Yeah,
so now you had a lot more confidence with this one, and you were leaning on other people, right? And their, confidence in you to push you further towards the front. Because I remember when you posted on Facebook, and I'm like, go to the front, listen to me. Like, do not stand in the back. We talked about this. So aren't you glad you weren't in the back for this race? Because you would have been mad at yourself.
Yeah. I definitely agree, because I was sort of like, now see, I'm realized that I sold myself a smidgen short this time because I started in I think it was the 30 to 33 or 33 to 35-minute range, just because of like I did a mile swim, like a lake swim earlier this year, and my fastest mile time was like 31 and or 31 or 32. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to squeeze out this extra two in that
It's a
amount of,
different body of water.
yeah.
So like lake swim versus ocean swim versus like river current swim, like, and I've been doing like this past year a lot of lake swims, which is slower for me than, a river or ocean swim where there's a fast current. So you kind of have to judge based off of that. And that's
Yeah.
why I sent you that message like, go to the front. Even though you don't feel like you're feeling it until you get out and you're like, oh.
Look, that's what I got to say. That's what happened. I was like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's it. Let's go.
Exactly. So you never know, you might just go back just because you want to see. I think that's why I always go back to that race to see, how well I'm going to do, especially on that part. But
Yeah.
All right. So that's enough about the swim. I'm glad you built your confidence more, and I'm glad people pushed you to move and you did really well. So talk to me now about the transition from the swim to the bike.
Okay. So like I said, once I was able to squint my way to the glasses stand, I ran over there and I tried to, the day before I tried to do recon of the run or the swim in to the bike and where my bike was in relation to that. So I was like, okay, I'm good. I feel confident. I got the angles. When I got there, all that went out the window because I totally was like, where am I? I don't know where my rack is. I can't find my bike. What is going on? Like, I don't know what happened, but completely out the window. So I ended up just kind of like, okay, it's over here. Got to the bike. And, with North Carolina was different was you can't have your stuff. They didn't allow your stuff to be laid out on the ground. So you had to have it in the bag, kind of like, put in the bag attached to the bike rack. So, because they were with fire ants or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's nice to know. Yeah, they were like, you can't leave your stuff on the ground because we have fire ants. You don't want that problem. I was like, okay. So ended up, getting my stuff on the bike. And like I said, that I don't know if there was anything I could have done quicker because I just got to transition and just like my brain just lost its marbles. But as far as efficiency, like once I got my stuff on and getting out there, it was smooth. It was good to go. And it was just trying to like find a balance of not exhausting myself running from swim to the bike, but not like twiddling my thumbs walking either.
Yeah, doing enough just to get your heart rate going, getting used to standing up versus you swimming and getting yourself ready for land. So you went from transition, had a really good transition other than brain fog, by the way, happens to me often. I think I was worse for North Carolina going from the bike to the run. I could not find where my stuff was. It was a mess. So now you're on the bike. What do you think about the bike course? Tell me a little bit about how that felt and that little extra. Don't they give me like an extra mile?
Yeah. It was long. Like, I mean, like I know that a 70.3 is like it's not like a like a 5-mile bike ride, but it just felt so long because it was so many lengths of time where you were just going straight. I think like the first, like once you did like turn, went up the little bridge, I feel like you were straight for like 10 plus miles. And I'm like, I'm still in a straight line.
Excuse me about this particular course is, again, I've done it a couple times, so that's why I kind of know it by heart. You're on that highway going. So like you're fresh out of the water, you're trying to like look at your speed. And then you could look across the way and see people going that way. right?
Oh
But
yeah,
there's so much you got to do to get to that. So it's so confusing. So while you're back in that back end part, it's like, where the heck? Like you visually remember seeing people on like the pros on the other side, but there's that, mile 20 something and 30 something. You're like, where, like, when are we going back? It
yeah,
seems like that part, right? Is that what you're talking about? That
yeah,
takes so long until
yeah.
you get there.
I was like, bet I'm doing all right until like I'll go forward and go backwards. To when I got to around where they were, I'm like, they
This
were
building.
moving. Yeah, I was like, they were moving. I was just like, oh my god! Like, I felt so slow. Like I was just like a little. Like I mean, I'm not the fastest biker in the
Mhm.
world, but I felt so slow once I realized they were like 75% done. When I was just like on the first quarter of my race, and I was just like, good grief, because I didn't realize like literally, I think the first 20 miles of it or so was like 20 miles that I took when I left. Driving back, I'm like, I wonder why I felt like this was long. Yeah, it was just like you went straight. Actually, did the little turns by the bridge, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like be careful for the drawbridges because just stay in line, don't do anything like that." And they can tell you all you want to, but riding your bike over grates on the drawbridge is the most terrifying
Right.
experience in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I did a 10K over the Bay Bridge like this last weekend. That was not nearly as scary as like you gonna like what?
And other people clipped in, hoping you don't fall. Like yeah, that is totally scary.
Oh, yeah,
And
intrusive
then,
thoughts. I'm just like, what if I just roll over roll over the side? I'm clipped in. Like, what is going to happen? But
yeah.
yeah, once you got there, it was like I said, the straight shots, and I like it. I kept like I tried not to look at my speed, but I kept an eye on like my cadence and my speed, and I realized like, okay, you're still doing pretty solid. You're doing better than what your practice are. You're in shape. You're pretty good, and trying to just see like where I am versus where where I need to be. Um, like I said, I learned from Eagle Man just the art of grabbing the water bottles. So every time you go to it, you try to like grab it. I did pretty good there. Um, I was impressed too that I learned how to open an uncrustable while riding the bike at the same time. Because like
Was that
before I
your
was
first
scared. I
time
was
doing that on the race? So you were able to, for our listeners, you were able to grab the water bottles from volunteers while you were riding your bike. So that's like some, feels like some pro stuff to just, you yell out what you want, you take it with your hand and drink it and then toss it while you're in a certain area in a zone to be able to toss your stuff. So were you able to do it at other races, or was this the first race that you were able to do that?
okay.
Grabbing.
I was sorry. I was able to do it at Eagle Man, and that was the first time because apparently I hadn't gotten a memo because I thought I had all the stuff on my bike, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I've been so used to like like the little, I guess this neighborhood tribe that I used to do like in Northern Virginia, but I didn't realize that's what you had to do, and I'm like, you're not going to exactly stop your bike. You have to learn how to do it. So you might have a couple of misses, but you'll get the hang of like when to reach out and when to grab and things like that. And of course, some people aren't going to be the most like the greatest at handing them to you.
Mm-hmm.
But you live and you learn, and yeah, you do toss it. And one time I figured out the trajectory enough where I tossed it and made it into the trash can. I was like,
Ooh,
yes. I was
nice.
like, give me
Never
a
made
little mental boost.
I've never made it trash. I always say thank you, sorry, and
Yeah.
I just keep going. I never make it. I don't even, I just try not to get a penalty because I'm always
Yeah.
trying to, get water over me, but it was probably too cold to do that for you. Did the wind change? from
It
like from beginning and like being on one side and then now you're making your way back? Were you fighting the wind? Like how was the wind during this race?
the wind, it was like it felt. I knew that it was there, but it didn't feel as disrespectful as the Eagle Man
Mm.
wind. I don't know if it's exactly the way that we were facing. Like I still felt it, but it wasn't sometimes where I felt like I was like standing still. Like Eagle Man, there were points where I felt like I was standing still on the bike, but this one I felt like, like I was continuously going and realizing that you have to go with the wind, not, you can't fight against it because, double digit wind gusts versus you on the bike, the wind's going to win. So you have to just, make sure that you're playing it smart and getting through it. Okay. So
Yeah, I don't think it's one of those. I mean, a flat course is always going to be windy, but I don't think I've ever felt like North Carolina is just that disrespectful with wind where I would never want to go back.
yeah.
Um, it's just, it does as a 70.3 feel long. And then because you're going a little bit more than 56 miles, you're just like, all right, enough. Like, where is the transition? Can I get off this bike?
Yeah, this one guy, we had made the first little turn. He was like, "Do you know where the next turn?" I was like, "Man, I don't know." I don't
And
know.
you're like talking to people at the end because you really just want to get, and it's not like you haven't gone past the 56, but it just feels like forever.
Oh my God, this is so straight. And then I tell you what made it, what was the funny part to me was like, we're going on this highway, and then all of a sudden you see a 60 miles per hour sign. 60? And then like a tractor trailer rolls by, and you're like,
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
this madness?
It's like, get me off this bike. Where is transition? Okay, so you made it. You made it to transition. And how was that transitioning from the bike to the run?
Transitioning from the bike to the run was pretty good because I don't know how I remembered this time. How many I counted from the top and the bottom how many lines my rack was. So I said, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's right there. Put it in, put the shoes on, and I was able to gather everything pretty quickly and get out. So I was able to find my stuff better on the bike to run than the swim to the bike.
Much better than me. And your stuff was in bags, right? You had to like grab your bag and you knew where all that stuff was and get yourself on the run course.
Yeah. So that was good.
Yeah. So what's the run course like? I feel like the run course is always a daze. Like it's not completely flat, but it has some
It was.
rollers, right?
Hey, I don't feel like, yeah. I don't know what flat is. I know, like, I have a definition of flat, but apparently my definition doesn't match, like, course definition of flat. But I will say the most disrespectful thing about, I'll say, the transition in the run, past my hotel 3 times. So, like, from the bike to the run, then the run out, I'm like, hey, this is my hotel. And then on the way back, this is my hotel again. And I'm like, this is bad.
And I think leaving out, you're going uphill, right? To get to like the neighborhoods. Aren't you like starting off uphill?
Yeah, it's like you did the run out. Then they had us go to the right towards like it's a little bit further down from when the battleship is. Like you went like around like a little part, then you came in, and then you did the steep incline to go to
Yeah.
the right down. I forgot what the name of the street is, but you just went down that street for
A
a good
strip
little
of
bit.
restaurants and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, until you
Yeah.
made like the right turn to go towards the park and everything like that. But
It's
it
lovely coming back, but going out, I was just like,
I was like, yeah. I was like, I was like, I misread or misinterpreted this whole entire run course because this is not what I was expecting. But it felt like it was. I can't compare it to Baltimore Hills, but it had a little bit more dips and everything than I anticipated. But I had a plan to sort of with the run, but it was a nice run out, and the way back was the way back was good, and it was really cool, like ending on the promenade and everything like that. And it was like when on the way back, a group of 4 of us ended up together, and I'm like,
Oh,
do we want to separate? Because it's not that wide here, but everybody wanted to stay together. So I guess we're finishing this, the run together. But it was okay. I think I just wish I had paid attention a little bit more to the elevation on it, but it was still a pretty good run.
yeah. Well, you did well. You finished in good
Indeed.
time. So how was that? How was your timing for that race in comparison to Eagleman? Like, or did you have like some major PR changes? I mean, I know the terrain is completely different, but
Yeah. And
how did that feel as far as timing?
overall, it was a PR for me. So it's been my fastest 70.3 to date, and it felt good. Like every aspect of it, like the swim was a PR. I have to double check on the bike. I think the bike was a PR for the time, and the run was a PR for me for 70.3 style. So it felt, really good. And this is one of the few times where I haven't overly criticized myself after a race. I know what I need to do to, continue the next level, but I was really happy and kind of really excited with how I did. So it was like, I think it ended up being like a 5 to 10 minute PR, but it was still like, for me, it was kind of like, hey, I'm sort of getting the hang of this thing a little bit. Let's continue to roll forward.
Yeah. And I feel like as long as you learn something from yourself, what you're able to get through, because there's definitely the physical part, but there is a huge mental piece to it. To getting through where, you started with the swim, trying to figure out what you're doing there, trying to stay focused on the bike, and then on the run, getting yourself to the finish line. Like there's so many mental aspects to that, to getting through the race. I mean, was there anything that you went through that you want to share with folks that allowed you to stay focused to get yourself to the finish line?
Okay. The biggest thing to me was my father passed away from cancer in July. So it was dealing with that, the waves of grief, and also making sure that my mom, was good to go along with the training. Because I know, anybody who's experienced the loss of a relative or anyone close, it's not an easy thing. And it's one of those things where I'm an only child. And I was protective. I still am, especially my mom. I'm protective over my parents, because they say they're my peeps, and they're all I had. But it was a time of where I had to balance taking care of myself, my mom, taking care of like the funeral arrangements, and still pushing forward with this. Like, I didn't want to give up on it. And I said, definitely thankful for, people like you and the rest of my village, and especially having, a coach like Ariel who really understood what I was going through, not just saying like, I could literally say, hey man, like, I'm gonna have to do my bike or swim tomorrow because I'm emotionally taxed. And that was, really helpful. So it had been a tough journey, like literally all this year. And it was some days where I honestly didn't feel like doing it anymore. I didn't feel like swimming. I just wanted to say, just forget all of this. But something was like, continue and push on. So it helped me get through everything. And I'm glad that I had the physical and mental capacity. And I said, I always will thank God for guiding me through it, because it gave me something to focus on besides that. Like, letting the grief happen and letting the stress happen, but also having something to hold on to. And like during the race, I had to say, like, I would like look up and say something to my dad, or just make sure that he was still, there. I even joked to say, "Hey man, you got to fuss at me or something, like tell me don't give up or something like that," because that's what he'd do, and it was good, and like the sense of relief after I got that done, because like I said, that was like picked up right in the midst of everything. Was like it was a huge like burden lifted off of me, but it was a rough time, but I'm still thankful for the ability to be able to do this.
Well, I just want to say I'm so happy for you, and thank you for sharing that. I wasn't expecting you to share that part. I was expecting you to share, some of the grit that people go through instead to stay focused on your training. Me personally, going through grief and losing my mom 2 years ago, I can relate to some of the things that you just shared. I often go through that. I am an only child as well. I don't have any parents now. I have my husband and my kids. So, I often talk to my mom during races, and it feels like she's fussing at me because that's what she did all the time
Yep.
when I didn't want to do things. So it's a lot of me, her telling me to suck it up, and I didn't never taught you to do this type of thing. It's like the female David Goggins version in my
Yeah.
head of telling me to, what are you doing? Get up, or figure it out. What you crying for? So all that stuff. So I often hear that,
Yep.
coming from her. And there's always a sense of gratitude. Like no matter how something ends for me, I never quit because
Mhm.
I always feel like she never taught me to do that. So like I always say, like I'm continuing unless somebody pulls me off because my mother didn't teach me how to do that. That's the only thing I know. And I don't think anyone can tell someone what they can do to go through grief. You
Yeah.
just go through it yourself. But I think triathlon and having a tribe while you're navigating through it is an awesome thing. I've personally experienced, having a tribe and going through it with triathlon. It doesn't go away for me because even with this, I wanted to be like, Mom, I have people to interview. And I'm just like, dang, I wish I could call her and tell her
Yep.
about people's stories. Like, I want to call her so bad and tell her, like, I'm going to put the Christmas tree up. It's just like conversations I can't have, but I'm
Yeah.
still thankful that I'm here. I'll say I'm thankful to see your story, just seeing even your weight loss journey that you've shared from Eagleman to there. It just seems like weight was lifted just for so much, and I'm really happy for you. And sometimes thank you for sharing those things on Facebook because there's
Oh
things
yeah.
that I relate to, losing a parent, and being an only child. So you inspire me as well. Just want to let you know that, and I'm pretty sure you've inspired others with you just sharing just now. So
I definitely appreciate it, and I had to realize like a lot of times like I'll say to stuff and people say you're an inspiration. I'm like, who, me? Like I do it because it's one of those things where like to let people know like, hey, this isn't easy. It's not something that I'm just all. I mean, if anybody follows my Facebook page, they know it's full of shenanigans. Even though like I post shenanigans, it's still some days where like I don't have it. Like I'm sad. I'm like this. Like it was definitely a couple swim things where like I literally was like crying at the pool. I had to stop and just like, but it's one of those things where you find like the grit and determination to get through it, because it was like, yeah, the physical part was tough, but when there is like a 3.5, 4 hour bike ride on your schedule and you're out there and it's like you're there with nothing but your thoughts, your mind, and yourself. And that's when it's like all of it comes together and you really have to, say, this is like what you're made of. And it's like that line from Black Panther, like, show them who you are. Like that kept going through my head. just to
Mhm.
make sure that I can, make it through. If I had a moment where I needed to stop for a second, regroup, carry on.
Yeah. And sometimes you on race day, you think about those training moments where you just couldn't get through it, or you barely made it through it, or you made it through. On race day, you're like, this is much easier than the time I had on this, practice day. So if I
Mm-hmm.
could get through that, that's why it's so important to go through your training, because that helps you to get through race day. Because in our race day, there's a lot of other people there. There's people to hand you water. They're not
Yep,
out there when you're training by yourself.
at
So
all. It's like,
it's no one out there. It's just
whoa,
you.
squirrel, it's like, all right. Now
I
you
used
get,
to have this gas station that I would stop at for water and stuff, and I called it my crying gas station, because I would barely make it up this hill to the gas station. The people would see me inside, and I was training in the cold, and they were ready for me sometimes with tea, and I'd just be crying. And after I got it out, I was like, okay, I feel much better now. Thanks, guys. See you next Saturday. People crying and trying to get my soggy money out to pay for some tea or coffee to warm up, and then I'm like, okay, I just need to get that out. All
yeah,
right, just one more mile to go. So it's like, all right, see you guys next week. So, but on race day, I was good, because
yeah,
there was people out there to hand me the
yeah,
for an Ironman. You'll have the people that hand you the chicken soup. The people's like, thank you for volunteering. Wish you were out there 3 weeks ago when I was on the highway by
yeah.
myself, but it's all good. You're here now.
Yeah, it's
So
like
yeah,
thank you. Yeah, not besides the squirrels and the other random animals that try to kill me on the trail. I appreciate y'all.
all of that. Yeah. Glad you guys are here instead of them.
Yeah.
So for somebody else that is, getting ready for this type of journey, you've been through a lot, but you've navigated yourself through, what advice would you provide?
um, don't compare yourself to necessarily others, and your journey is your journey, and how you do it. Like, there's no guide to how to or which way you're supposed to go about it. Like, like, there's some people who, done triathlons for years. Me, apparently, like I said, I took one of the expedited routes. I was like, pool tries, one Olympic, Eagle Man. That's like, like I went, like I just said, all right, let's go right into it. But it's that, and never being afraid of asking for help or anything like that. It's an accomplishable thing, but it's something that you want to respect and understand the entire process of it. So ask for help, get a tribe, and just know that you won't have easy days, but the reward at the end of the hard days is great.
Thank you. What's
Thank you.
next for you, for people that want to follow or know more about your journey? What are you thinking about doing next?
So I have, like I said earlier, I have friends who are bullies and pressure me into things, but it's not pressure. But I have signed up for my first full Ironman, and I'll be trying to tackle Ironman Maryland next year. And the funny part about it is, I did it. People are like, so it's about time. So when are we going to get to work? That's why I was like, all right then. But ready to roll.
So for people that, new to listening to us, a full Ironman is a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike, and a 26-mile run. We know that you can do it, because you just did a 70.3. You just have a little bit more to go, and it sounds like you have an amazing coach that
Mm-hmm.
supports you physically and mentally for the next part of your journey. And I know that you'll keep inspiring others along the way. And I'm
Thank you.
happy to share anything, because I've done that race before. I do like Maryland. Yeah. Thank
Absolutely. I'll be picking everybody's brain, because I still don't know how I got here, because I still remember when I was like, I'm not doing anything longer than the 5K. I'm not doing open water tries. Every time I say I don't do something,
Well,
I'm here.
you're picking some interesting people to hang around with for someone who says I'm not going to do.
Right. Yeah. I looked at, yeah, everybody, like you, John Gers, McKinley, Vaughn. Well, I'm
Yeah,
like,
you pick
yeah,
some
okay.
interesting people to hang around with to say I'm not going to do these types of things.
Yeah. I was like,
So you may want to change that, or maybe not. And
no, because I'm in now. I'm committed. I got too much gear and I spent too much money on getting here. So we're involved now.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for being my guest. This was
For
really
having
a
me.
great conversation. I'm so glad that we were able to circle back. Congratulations again. And I can't wait to see what you do next. I know it's going to be awesome. And I know you're going to share and continue to inspire more. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching Exposed Vegan Media. If you like this episode, please share it with others and subscribe. We look forward to sharing more information with you.